the most dangerous employee within any organization right now is someone with a small amount of domain expertise and a high amount of AI agency, because they're creating a real amount of slop. Like the best people in a company are the people who have real taste, domain expertise, and high AI agency. And I think they're the ones who are creating most of the momentum. And so marketing, more than probably any role, should have the leaders who are quite AI native and are probably in the weeds doing a lot of stuff themselves. So I think the first thing is, how do you actually bring a culture of excellence into your team? How do you have a culture of agency? So I think one of the things we're going to see with AI is people will be a lot more autonomous. High agency means that you can do the full loop of what you need to do without having to hand it off to others.
It's a big matter of ambition, like giving really ambitious tasks that can only be done through the use of AI, Claude Code, or anything like that.
I think most brands will have a quote unquote AI mascot. And I think that AI mascot will be the face of their brand. And so you might think that's a wild idea. That is already happening in B2C. B2C is usually like 3 to 5 years ahead of B2B. I built a whole marketing system, and I'm going to show you like the content part because it's the one that people I think can easily understand. But I have a whole marketing team.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Hey, Kieran, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Excited to be on.
All right, Kieran, I think we have a lot to talk about today, but mostly around AI, because you've been quite loud on AI and the way you use AI and your thoughts about AI. So I really want to dedicate this episode on this, which I think is interesting in your case because you have the two levels, the strategic level leader, AI marketing leader, this is what I call this, and also the operator side of things. And especially coming from your background as a software engineer, you were a software engineer, correct?
Yeah, I was a failed software engineer. So I did computer science at university. I did some years as a software engineer coding and actually Linux, Unix, and Perl Python. And so Claude Code has been, we're going to get into that, but going back to the command line and working through the command line has been great for me. I love working through the command line.
Great. All right. So my first question maybe is, so you've said publicly that AI for you is killing the middle tier in the marketing organizations. So people that are not really exceptional craftspeople or highly technical people. The thing is that for most CMOs and VP marketing, so marketing leaders listening to this podcast, their marketing organization is strictly built around this middle, like headcount, job levels, team design, etc., etc. So for you, how should they consider changing the marketing organization, or how do you see the marketing organization changed with this in mind?
Yeah. I was speaking to a founder recently who uses a lot of agents in his business, and his take on agents was probably right for where we are today, where he said, hey, like if you have someone who's kind of mediocre at their job, agents actually do an incredible job within your company. So they can actually take the work that a mediocre person used to do, and they can do it just as well. They cannot do the work of a really true, great craftsperson, domain expert. Maybe they will over time, but that's kind of where we are today. I think in terms of how that applies to marketing, I think what happens in all organizations, marketing are not unique here, is that we flatten the org structure. People become much more autonomous, can do much more work because of AI. If you are a true domain expert, a craftsperson, you likely can go and be a much more generalist. So marketing is unique. If you think of all go-to-market teams, marketing is actually unique as a go-to-market team. In sales, you have sellers, and they all have pretty much the same role. Maybe you have some SDRs, BDRs, AEs, doesn't really matter, but you have like a very similar set of things that person does. Same in customer success, same in support, even same in engineering, same in product. Whereas marketing, you have like a whole slew of different niche teams that all kind of have domain expertise about what they do, but don't really know how to do other marketing. So like product marketers, brand marketers, demand marketers. And I think what happens because of AI, you'll have more generalists who can do all of marketing with agents and AI as part of their kind of team. So I think the org gets flatter. We have probably less middle managers. You'll have bigger, you have people managing many more individual contributors, and those individual contributors will be generalists who have agents and assistants that actually can help them do all facets and all part of marketing. And actually that is happening. If you spend any time with AI native companies, that's actually how they're set up. They're not set up like traditional marketing teams have been in technology for some amount of years.
Okay, and so from what you see today, what should companies with a lot of people should AIfy, let's say, first?
Well, what should you AIfy first? I think I think part of it is actually how do you get people to adopt AI and start using it within their workflows? Again, marketing has this hard problem where what's happening in the industry today is if you have an engineering department adopt AI, you can look at the usage of your engineers. You can see who's using AI, who's not, and then you can actually correlate that to a productivity metric, which is shipped code. So you can actually see AI, people who use AI over time, or engineers who use AI over time, become much more productive. In sales, it's very similar. You can look at your sellers and you can look at AI usage and you can correlate that to PPR. In customer support, you can correlate that to number of tickets answered. In customer success, it's a little harder. Actually, you can kind of correlate that to usage of accounts and customers. And in marketing, because you have such a spread of different teams and not all those teams are measurable in a really clean way, it's the starting problem with marketing is, okay, well, if people adopt AI in my marketing team, what do I look for to say that they become more productive? And I think that's a actual problem in marketing that most companies are having. Because the other thing is, without that outcome, you can look at usage, but the most AI, high usage person on your team could be the least productive. AI can make people pretty unproductive as well if you don't know how to use it, because you spend all of your time trying to craft prompts and do things where you could have just done that task in a small amount of time. So I think the first thing is, how do you actually bring a culture of excellence into your team? And that's, how do I use AI to actually create great outcomes? How do you have a culture of agency? So I think one of the things we're going to see with AI is people will be a lot more autonomous. Marketing has traditionally been an organization of handoffs. I'll do my little bit, then I hand it off to you. You do your little bit, you hand it off to that person. Because as I said at the start, it's a team, it's a collection of people with different domain expertise. But to me, high agency means that you can do the full loop of what you need to do without having to hand it off to others. So you actually have to understand how to bring AI into the organization, into marketing, and look for the right outcomes through that usage, not just say, well, who's using it, who's not, because I don't think that's a good metric for success. There's things you can do to do that. I think hackathons have traditionally been something that you've done in the developer world. They work actually well in all teams now. So we have hackathons. We allow marketers to take, an afternoon, build some cool stuff with AI, automate some of their work. And so you can actually bring in some things to get people using the AI hands-on.
Okay, so this is for people. That was about to be my question, actually. So how do you do this internally? So a hackathon can be an example, but then comes also the question of, when you recruit people, how do you make sure that they are already using AI the way they should use it?
Well, you could give people tasks to do, and you can make that task pretty impossible unless you actually understand how to use AI. So maybe in the past, you would have had a hiring process for a product marketer, and that product marketer would have done like a positioning statement. Now you could actually say, hey, like rebuild the website, right? Like literally just rebuild the website as part of your task, because that is a really easy thing to do. And if you rebuild the website, you can see how they bring positioning to life across your website, right? So you can actually give tasks that are a forcing function to say, if you don't know how you use AI for this task, you're going to think that this is an incredibly impossible thing to do. You can definitely, within the interview process, talk to someone and understand whether they are using AI or not. It's actually not something you can kind of fabricate. If the person on the other end knows how to use AI, it's actually not something you can kind of fabricate and just talk to if you've not actually been hands-on and doing that work. So I think the interview process, the test that you give, and then you kind of just look at the portfolio of work and you say, like, show me some real examples of things that you've done, problems that you've solved. Show me times where you've had a lot of high agency and have used AI to solve problems that traditionally you might have handed off to counterparts to complete the task or do the task.
Okay, so it's a big matter of ambition, like giving really ambitious tasks that can only be done through the use of AI, Claude Code, or anything like that.
Right.
Okay. Then maybe a difficult question, but for I think for marketing leaders, they start to feel this way is I think we both agree on the fact that you can't really be a top performer in the next 12, 18 months if you don't use AI on a day-to-day basis. But then, people internally, they start to wonder, am I just training AI to replace me? And so as a marketing leader, you have to really hold the tension between asking the team to adopt AI for productivity and to do more and to be more ambitious, etc., while knowing you might actually get you out of the of the team. So how do you manage this?
Yeah, I think so I think there's always going to be a world where you need to have great taste. So even on AI, I call the most dangerous employee within any organization right now is someone with a small amount of domain expertise and a high amount of AI agency, right? So you have not very good at your job, but you're really passionate and shipping a lot of AI, and they're the most dangerous people in any organization right now because they're creating a real amount of slop. We are really in the messy middle right now where AI has given people superpowers so they can actually ship code and ship memos and ship an infinite amount of stuff. But actually, without real domain expertise and understanding why you're using AI and what outcome you're trying to drive, it just creates more and more noise. And I think that's happening in most companies today. Is it's everything looks like an AI problem. Like I'll use AI for this, I'll ship more of this, I'll ship more of that. But actually, are you really driving any more outcomes? Are you really making the business more successful? I think the best people in a company are the people who have real taste, domain expertise, and high AI agency. And I think they're the ones who are creating most of the momentum today. In terms of like, okay, well, I'm sitting there and you're telling me I should really use AI, but what if I use AI and over time AI replaces me? Here's the thing I would say is like I would say AI is more on the personal accountability than the company telling you to do something. It's your choice to make, but AI is going to happen whether any of us like it or not, right? But we actually have very little control over it. And so all you can do is try to make the best choices to be the best version of yourself in a world where AI is going to be prevalent across how companies uh, do their work and go to market and actually ship products and services. I don't think many people outside of a small number of hundred people in like Silicon Valley have a lot of say over how AI is used or the kind of pace of evolution. And so what I would be thinking a lot about is, okay, like in a world where AI and agents are able to augment what I do, what is the real skill and what is the real craft and domain expertise that I can bring to make myself really valuable within these organizations? And the other thing I would tell people is, even the model capabilities are moving really, really rapidly, but actually integration into how companies work is moving really, really slowly. So I still think there's a lot of opportunity to be the one who can figure out how to integrate it into your team, into your business. That's really a skill set that most companies need.
Okay, great. Let's talk about data, because you've said that AI projects, they live or die on data quality. And you shared, I think you shared on LinkedIn or on your newsletter, I don't remember, but that you had an AI personalization workflow at HubSpot to book meetings, and it took 3 to 6 months to get the prompt right and to get the output right. Thing is, most B2B companies, they have fragmented data, messy CRM, etc., etc. So for you, what should be let's say, the minimum viable data foundation to get the output right?
I think the minimal viable version of data is whatever you need to elevate your AI experience above the average in your industry. Because like data sources are dependent upon the industry you're in, the vertical you're in, like what they are is going to be very dependent upon who your customer is. I think you want to have a data repository that has clean, enriched data that the AI can easily use to craft. The one that you're referring to is a prospecting, like we've done prospecting all the way through the funnel, and we've seen an AI has taken over a lot of our prospecting, and we've seen huge results from doing that. And so each time we've given the AI a better data set to actually work from, and that's internal data from our CRM, that's external data that we get from a bunch of different sources, then we actually continue to see like real increases in performance.
Yeah. Okay. And getting back to the data, but more in like and linking it with the org questions. You've mentioned earlier in the episode that measuring the impact of AI into the software engineer team, for example, is pretty easy because you know the number of lines of codes and things, like you have a number tied to it. So
Yeah.
you see the increase in productivity.
Yeah.
You mentioned that in marketing, it's a bit harder.
Yeah.
What do you follow to see that you're on the right track with AI in terms of data?
Like in terms of our external, like in terms of the marketing org, or
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a good question. I don't think we've come up with a de facto way to measure all of the different teams. We do a lot of show and tells. We do a lot of learning about how teams are using AI. We have a singular Slack channel where people post all of the things they're doing about AI.
Mm.
Integrating it across the go-to-market. So there's like two different ways I would think about this, where there's three different ways. AI usage is like my personal usage, my team usage, and then how I integrate it into the customer experience.
Mm.
So we measure a lot on how we've integrated it into the customer experience in our AI prospecting. We have sales agents, we have like customer support agent, customer success agents that we all measure based upon performance of the business. The one that's harder to measure is actually the individual usage. Like if a product marketer is using AI, what do we expect to happen in terms of their output? Like more, do we even want that? Do we want to say, well, you used to do like 5 positioning statements a month, and now we want 20 positioning statements a month?
Yeah, it doesn't
Coming
make any
back,
sense.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And so I think this is why I think that if you're going to lead teams through this next kind of iteration, you're the best in marketing. You kind of have to be an AI native leader, because there's so much kind of nuance in how you understand why how your team are using AI. Is it driving the right outcomes for you? There's not like a clean metric. That you yourself have to really understand AI, and you yourself really have to be able to dig into the details and see how your teams are using it, and be able to course correct and provide them with some really good feedback. And so marketing, more than probably any role, should have the leaders who are quite AI native and are probably in the weeds doing a lot of stuff themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So getting back to the operators side of things, even if you're a leader. Okay. Another topic I wanted to discuss is the creator-led marketing, let's say. So you said that for you, the creator-led channels, so creating content on LinkedIn and YouTube and having a podcast, etc. You have a YouTube channel with a podcast, etc. You have a newsletter, and for you, this is becoming the dominant B2B brand assets inside B2B. But most B2B companies, they don't have like a Kieran Flanagan at the top, and and they have usually executives that are really cautious on what to say publicly and to show their face, etc., etc. So
yeah.
what what should they do? How to manage this? What's
Yeah.
your advice?
Yeah, and I'll give the kind of setup there. So in 2021, we bought a company called The Hustle. It was a media company. And the reason we did that was because we thought B2B would look like B2C over time, because usually B2B is like 3 to 5 years ahead of B2C. B2C is usually like 3 to 5 years ahead of B2B. But so those
Yeah.
trends do kind of map to across to B2B over time. And so when you see B2C, what we saw at the time was, hey, a lot of the attention is shifting into creators and individuals. And then you look at the marketing channels that started to kind of decrease in importance and increase in importance. The branded channels like paid CAC has gone up over time. Blogs have been disrupted by AI. And the channels that were growing are like personality led. They're like YouTube, newsletter, TikTok, Instagram, like where the person is at the forefront. Now, back then, we weren't really thinking about AI actually, because AI really wasn't a thing back in 2021. So we bought that company and we built a media network. And that was our kind of internal, that was like our creator led, human led network. And so we had a podcast network, a YouTube network, all of these different assets that were led by people versus the brand, but they were part of the HubSpot network. And so the question is, I think that has been accelerated with AI. I think people want to connect with people because they trust people, and because a lot of branded content just gets lost in the AI ether, right? There's just so much
Mm.
content out there today that I think people want to connect with other people. And we are seeing that happen in B2B today. I think your question is like, well, does every company and industry, can every company do this? Like if you don't have a good creator within your org, or your founder doesn't want to be on LinkedIn and Instagram doing things, or the executive team don't want to do that. I think again, a lot of these questions are, or a lot of these answers are very much dependent upon the vertical you're in and the customer you have. And is your customer gravitating towards these channels to consume content? If they are, one of the things I think will happen is, I think most brands will have a quote unquote AI mascot. And I think that AI mascot will be the face of their brand. And that will be
Mm.
it will be like an avatar, or, a synthetic, and people may hate this, but it will be a synthetic avatar. It will look very lifelike. It will bring your brand to life across these personality channels. And I think that's how people will connect with your brand, is through this kind of lifelike person who's creating that content, who has a personality, who brings your company's story to life. And in that way, your content team is actually the brains behind that mascot. And so you might think that's a wild idea. That is already happening in B2C. A lot of the biggest Instagram accounts and the ones that are fastest growing are actually avatars. They're AI. You would not be able to tell the difference between them and a human, but they obviously disclose that they are AI, which you should always do. Same thing on X. Some of the best content on X is being driven by AI, because AI is a great content creator. And again, you want to disclose that you're AI. Am I saying that everyone watching this is going to be really excited by that future? Maybe not, but it is going to happen. And I do think it is a good way for companies to bring their brand to life through an individual, and that individual then doesn't have to be someone that actually is like working in the company. It can be a representation of your brand through AI. And so I think that's how a lot of companies will end up being able to move into this human-led, well, it won't be human-led, it'll be synthetic human-led, personality-led kind of future.
Okay, interesting. All right. I I wasn't expecting this, and I actually, when you were speaking about Twitter, for example, like of course on Twitter you've got like people using avatars and stuff,
Yeah.
but usually it's because they want to keep, they want to stay anonymous and this type of things. And in the case of a company having like a synthetic human representing your company, talking about your company, etc., I don't know for the audience the way they see things, because like at the same time, of course this is the right solution. If nobody's in your company wants to talk publicly, etc., well, you have to find a solution, and this is like the perfect solution now with AI. And at the same time, you see like all the bad buzz, I would say, that for example McDonald's had during this winter when they did like an advertising with AI, and people are still not really happy when they see a company using AI. So yeah, I think
Well,
this,
yeah.
maybe timing is not right, but I agree it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, well, I think execution matters. I don't think that
Yeah.
campaign was pretty bad, right? It was like really sloppy AI stuff. So again, coming back to my like 2x2, I think you have to have like pretty good domain expertise and bring AI to life in interesting ways. The other thing is, um, I think we like, again, we're thinking about. I think the first question is, okay, well, will people want to consume content from AI? I think that's already been proven because people are consuming a lot of content from AI today.
Yeah.
Whether they know it or not, I think it's always right to disclose it. But there's a lot of accounts that I personally can see that they are growing really rapidly, and they are using Opus 4.6 to create all their content, because I can see the pattern straight away, and they're on fire, right? And their content is really good. And so the first question is like, do people really care if the content is really good, that it's an AI avatar creating that content, and can they feel personally connected to that avatar? I think in B2C, we are seeing they actually don't care. There was a study released, I think it was last week or the week before. It might've been the New York Times or another pretty large media org who did a blind study, and they give people AI content and human content, and the AI content won. So humans, objectively, when you don't know it's AI, preferred the content created by AI because it was better than the average, content created by a human. So the second question is, okay, but are you gonna like, do you really want to be attached to that person? I think at BDC we're seeing that to be true. Will there be do I think there's going to be a backlash where there's probably a moment in time where this might not be a good strategy? Probably. But I do think it's going to happen. I think it's just, if you look at all the things that are happening today, I don't think it's that hard to pull ahead 3 years and suspect that some of the biggest creators in B2C and B2B are avatars with teams of humans behind them.
Interesting. All right. Okay, Kieran, I told you before we started the recording that I would love you to show some of the use cases that you use on a day-to-day basis. Before you sharing your screen, I think it's interesting for the audience to know the answer you had when I said, all right, I would like you to share with you your day-to-day use cases, and you said, well, yeah, but it's like asking me share your day-to-day use of your computer, and so I don't really know what to say. So can you elaborate on this idea, because I think it is really interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as we're talking. So I'm gonna pull up something to show like one fun use case that people might really like. But so I used to, yeah. So when I talked about AI a lot, and when I on podcast, people were like, "Hey, what's your workflow?" It's like, show me what you kind of do in Claude, or show me what back then it was like a lot of ChatGPT usage. I've definitely migrated most of my usage into Claude these days.
Yeah, same.
And I was like, what's your workflow? And I would say, okay, like one of the things I do is like I give it this memo, and then I ask it to red team the memo and give me all of the reasons that this would not work, and like reverse it, like the kind of what Amazon used to do, reverse engineer from tell us like all the reasons this wasn't successful, and then because of that you can actually start to fix those problems before you actually do that thing. So a lot of it was like strategy, like reverse, I used to have an agent that did kind of first principles and first principle thinking. And I would give it something and it would work through something in terms of first principles. And then I built that agent so it could flip through any kind of frameworks. And I would say, okay, let's use this framework, that framework. And it would get into that framework and start discussing something. But then over time, the models have just got so good. I kind of don't even think about how I'm using it, right? It's just part of how I work. I'm just like, so I think one of the things I could maybe provide, a tip for is I have a Claude project for everything I'm working on. And so every single document, every single artifact, every single meeting note, it's all in that project. So so I think of it as like mini brains. So I'm like working on a project today, and I have like a mini AI brain in Claude project. So I'll go to Glean and I'll say, hey, Glean, we use Glean internally. Like, give me all of the notes that I've taken for this. Give me all of the meeting notes. Give me all of the Slack messages and give me an artifact. Then I'll go and I'll say, okay, well, now give me all of the latest docs. And I put them into there. Actually, when you're in Claude, you can actually, because we've connected to Glean through API. So I can say, before you answer me, make sure you've retrieved all of the latest updates in these docs that I've given you. So it's like everything I put it into Claude in that project as my little brain. And that helps me to work through things in such an expedited way. It's hard to describe. One of the fun use cases I can show, which is like one of the systems I built in Claude Code. I built a whole marketing system, and I'm going to show you like the content part because it's the one that people I think can easily understand. But I have a whole marketing team that. So Lovable is actually I build all my decks in Lovable. So this was a presentation that I used to actually do kind of start the pitch off. And one cool thing about Lovable is like you can create any kind of style you want, right? So this was a Claude Code pitch, and I created it in style of a terminal, and it just allows you to be like so creative in terms of how you actually generate presentations. So I think that's a cool thing that people can do. Now Claude is pretty good for presentations. Notebook LM is pretty good for presentations. Anything that's using Nana Banana is pretty good for presentations. But I think in terms of my workflow, I'm definitely past the part where I have like defined workflows, and instead I'm just like working on a task, and Claude is a partner working on that task with me.
Interesting. Question regarding this presentation. You basically generated a brand because you wanted the CLI approach, like kind of a matrix UI. But are you really able with this type of tools to do presentation that is completely linked to your brand book, your brand assets, etc.?
Yeah. So this one here actually is pretty interesting because I want to give credit. This was done by a UX designer did an internal presentation that I thought was really awesome recently for a leadership team, and I basically loved it. And I just said, "Hey, can I copy it?" I just asked Lovable to copy it for me. So the other thing is it did it one shot and completely replicated the design. Like I didn't even really have to prompt it. I just told it to like take this and replicate that design. Yeah, if you give it we've done this internally. If you give it your brand styles, your colors, all of your color palette, all of those things, it can replicate your presentation really well. Obviously, the reason you couldn't use Lovable in a lot of cases for presentations externally is because if you're going to a conference, you have to give like a PDF or something. But anywhere you can do something like this and use a website for your presentation, I really enjoy the creativity in doing Lovable. Then the other thing I would say is, like, I guess I would start to question, well, we've typically done things a certain way, so all of our decks are uniformed and they all look a certain way and they all use these certain brand styles and templates. Maybe that's not the way things should be done, right? Like AI allows you to be creative in ways you can never be before. And so what I see a lot of people trying to do is like, how do I get AI to like replicate the things we did before? Right. I see the people do this in content all the time. It's like the worst thing. I see all these tools do. Okay, like enter your domain and we'll replicate your writing style. Yeah, but we're going to replicate your writing style, and your writing style is probably average. Why would you want to do that? And now you can have like more average. It's the same thing with all these decks. Like, can I put in my brand style and like you can replicate my deck? Why? Like AI can do 100 times better than what you do. Why are you going to force it to do something that's really bad and generic? So I probably would question. I don't think people use AI in the right way. I think they try to use it to do more of the stuff they do and not elevate the stuff they do.
Interesting. Interesting. And what you said is actually, it made me think like when you think about presentation, for a lot of people, presentation equals slides.
Yeah.
And here what you're saying is that you have to do a presentation, but it doesn't have to be a slide.
I think
it can be a website, it can be a video, it can be whatever,
I think for the most part, we're in the era of show don't tell as well. I actually hate. I'm not a fan. Any time you could just prototype something and show me something is way better than presentation. Way better than a memo. I think obviously that's not doable in all the cases, but yeah, like again, trying to think about how AI can allow us to do something different and not just try to replicate what we've done before with AI and just do more of it. I think that's the mindset to get into, is like, okay, I used to do it this way, but I can do it so much differently now and it's so much better now. And I'm going to actually spend my time doing that versus like trying to get it to do the thing that I'm already doing, but just automate it.
And why did you pick Lovable in this case versus Claude?
Why that? So for this specific case, instead of a Claude artifact, no reason. I don't know. There's lots of reasons I use certain tools. Like why did Replit has a really great tool. I could use Replit. Yeah. I think that's another good question, is like, why do I do some of the things I do with AI? I suspect they're like so widely different from how other people use AI. It's wrapped around, AI is like very different from software. I think it's like very personal to just how you enjoy working. It's not rigid like software. It's like I can just vibe and do whatever I feel is good. That means there's probably a lot of inefficiency. Even I'm probably inefficient in certain ways that I work. And I can't answer why I do certain things. But
but I think at the same time, we were discussing just earlier about your kind of second brain, having a second brain and documenting your decisions and everything you do and blah blah blah. And for this, I feel that you should have one go-to AI to use, so you can really benefit from the fact that you documented everything and blah blah blah. But in this case, in the case of this presentation, I mean, you give it a prompt and enough context, and the output is great. You don't need to connect this to a second brain, like a lot of data, a lot of documentation. And so I think this is also where people are kind of lost, because sometimes you have to pick between the tools, but at the same time, you want them to have enough context so you don't have to have a long prompt, etc.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Claude. So like the unlock for a lot of these models has been memory. So like the more you work with Claude, the more I have in there, the better it is. It knows all of the things that I need it to know. It doesn't know all the things. So when we say it has memory, it doesn't store everything. It tries to store what are the important parts, and you can tell it to, hey, store this in memory if you think something is important. And then this here is just a creative, like this was just a creative task. I wanted a cool thing is to kind of bring my pitch to life before I actually dove into the terminal. Because terminal, one of the things that I'm still trying to learn is how to make showing a terminal a fun thing to show when you go into Claude Code. And so this was just a more visual way to introduce the system. But yeah, you don't need, I didn't need it to have memory of the system. Actually, the way I did this was Claude Code created the prompts for Lovable, because Claude Code has, it's where my system lives. And so I didn't even do the prompts to create the slides. I asked Claude Code to help me present this at a pitch off, and it created prompts for Lovable to create the slides. So that's the other thing. I have weird, like, so when I'm in Claude Code, I have a weird thing where I actually use Claude, the desktop app, to create prompts for Claude Code. Right? That's kind of weird, but that's the way I work. And one of the reasons I could say that was a good thing to do is because it burns less tokens, but it's not, again, it's just not, there's probably far better ways to do that. I'm starting to use Codex to fix Claude Code bugs, because Codex is a pretty great, I found Codex to be a great bug fixer. So you just find all these ways of working that are unique to just how you work.
Nice. Really interesting. Do you have another use case you can share?
So do you want me to quickly show this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll do a quick demo of this. It should work. But just to give an example, so this is a content team. Now the content team will work automatically, but I'm going to show it manually. So what do I mean automatically? I can basically just give it a content strategy that I want to create, and it will go off and create a certain amount of content each and every week. And I'm going to take you through some of the lessons I would give you if you want to build kind of cool systems in Claude Code. And I'm going to really simplify them, because I know Claude Code has a lot of like mainstream buzz, but I don't think a lot of people are still using it. And so I want to go through like, what are just some of the lessons that you could apply to any model? If you want to just do this in Claude Desktop, or you want to do it in ChatGPT, I can go through some of just more basic lessons. So the content team is split into what you would expect the team to be able to do. So you have an onboarding process, and in that onboarding process, you create an audience profile, and then you create a writing style. And the writing style can be based upon anyone. You can just give the team a name, and it will go and create a style based upon that name. And so, coming back to what I said earlier, if you are not a good writer, you should probably not tell it to recreate your style. You should tell it to try to help you elevate your style. Now, people would say, well, this is like copying other people's writing styles. So there's a great copyright framework called Copywork. And Copywork was literally created in the early 1900s. But Copywork is basically how people got really good at copywriting back in the olden days before computer, where they would literally take people's work and they would write it out by hand. I used to do this, and they would literally just write it letter by letter, because you're trying to get used to the beats of how someone creates great content. And then you enhance it with your own style. That's kind of what the writing style is. It gives you like a style card, and then you can actually use that as a foundation and then build upon your own style. And then we have these kind of research skills, and the research skills will create a queue that I'll show you, and that queue is stack ranked, and it has an agent that's providing feedback to the queue and constantly trying to make that queue better, and I can show you how that works. It has like some skills, and I'm building these out, like just individual content skills. And so when I think of content in modular blocks. So I think of as a hook, an intro, the enrich one I'll show you, but I think of it in terms of modular blocks. Then it has an individual skill per platform. Then the big thing that I would say is, if you're building real systems, it has to have feedback loops. So it has a performance agent, and what that performance agent does is it basically scrapes the web. It looks to see all of the content I created through the system, it will integrate analytics, and I'll provide some of the analytics because it doesn't have access to all of them. And then I'll run another agent that will take all of that and then update the entire system based upon learnings. And I know that's like a little bit more complicated, but I can talk through that a little bit. And what I'll quickly do is I'll quickly show it in action, and then you can kind of like ask me some questions. But I want to quickly show the orchestration skill. So I'll just go into, let's see if this works. All right. So let's see something in the orchestration. So what is an orchestration skill? So an orchestration skill is like in here is tons of skills, and the orchestration. So rather than me having to remember them all in that system, I should be able to just say, let's create content, and the orchestration skill will run, and the orchestration skill knows all of the other skills. And so it basically creates a little app for you, right? Like it will feel like an app. And there we go. So it didn't run. This happened to me once before. And this is the thing we're doing live. So let's use the
All right, so here you're saying let's use the orchestration skill to create content.
Yeah. And I will just make sure I've opened this up in the right, because I have a different team. So I want to make sure I'm in the right team here. Yeah. Let's see.
So for people who are not really familiar with this, so you're in the terminal, which is kind of scary for most people. But actually, you know, what's surprising is that you can be in the terminal using Claude, and you actually talk to Claude the way you talk to Claude on the app.
Yeah,
it's just in the
it's
terminal.
The same. Yeah, exactly. And so you can see here it's run. I have different versions. So I actually just have realized that I'm in the old content team, but it's fine. It will be able to run it. That's why I didn't pick up in the orchestration skill, because I've actually improved it. So you can see here it's found some audience profiles. It's found like 2 that I've created, and I can go and show you quickly what they look like. It's picked up on my writing style. So I've created a lot of content, so I'm pretty happy with my style. I'm not using anyone else's, but you can literally just give it anyone's name, and it will go off and create a writing style as long as that person has content online. It has these win-in profiles. So win-in profiles are basically what works for me on different platforms. So this one's for Substack. So basically what it's done is it's looked at all of my Substack posts, looked at the analytics, and it said, okay, based upon that, this is a win-in profile. The reason that's important is because these research skills, these different research skills that I have, will go and use a profile, and then based upon what platform I'm creating content for, go look for ideas like those. So for example, if I say I'm gonna put it into manual, not automatic, and then we're gonna run a lookalike skill, and that lookalike skill is going to go and find trending ideas. It actually tells you here. It will go and find trending ideas that look like the winning formula for my Substack. Now I can say my winning formula for LinkedIn, my winning formula for X, whatever I want to do. It will go find ideas that look like those. And then these ones here are programmed to go find viral talking points. So for example, I can say, okay, let's extract some talking points, some points for Claude Code for marketers. We'll allow that to run, and I'll show you the queue in the meantime. So this one here is going to run a spelling is pretty bad, but it's fine. This one here is going to run one of the skills that's trained to go look across X, Reddit, all of these different sites, and find trending talking points that would fit the things that I know work really well for content for me. And so it's trained on it. So it has an outcome in mind, right? Like and that's like took a long time to train it to figure out how to look for those patterns. That's 30 days. So it's loaded. Okay, so you see here, it's loaded my audience profile. It's loaded my style card. then it's going to kick off all of this research. And I'm going to just say do last 30 days.
And so okay, you're using Claude, but obviously you connected Claude to other tools.
Yeah, so I have it connected to X, Perplexity, OpenAI, and I have it connected to Firecrawl. So Firecrawl is a tool that allows me to crawl websites. And so what is all these research skills doing? Let me quickly show you. So we'll go to the lovely file system here. So we're going to go into our content queue. Now I create everything in HTML. It doesn't need to be HTML. The reason it's in HTML is so I can show when I'm showing things like this.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and so the okay, so this is kind of what it's doing. Now it does this. It does this automatically, but I'm showing you the manual mode. And so it's stack ranking them, right, based upon good fit. And then it's giving me the kind of ideas that it's found through these different research skills. So it's not just the one I've run. I have 3 other research skills. And then the thing I can do is I can give it feedback, and I can say, okay, okay, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to mess it up, but
yeah, well, we get the idea.
Yeah, like give me 3 tips when you pull back a data nugget, a data point on how my audience can action these. And so if I do that, that's when I save that, it saves as a JSON file. And so JSON allows me to have a big list of all of the kind of feedback, and then I give that to another agent, and then the agent goes and uses that to update all of the research skills and updates the profile. And so I'll pause and try to make sure I'm not going too technical here. So what are some of the learnings for you all? Context really matters no matter what task you're doing in AI. And so context in this case are the profiles that I created. So these kind of profiles that get preloaded, we'll go into one here. Let's go here. So these profiles, they get preloaded. That's context, right? So now it has context on who it's creating that content for. And so this is an example of a audience profile. So number one, context really matters for you to be able to kind of tailor things towards your needs, whether you're doing product marketing, whether you're doing content, whether you're doing whatever it may be. The other thing I would say is there is a ton of learning that goes into the prompts. And so the prompts really matter within the skills. Like this is just a whole file system of skills, and skills are basically text files that tell the AI to do certain things. And those skills are really based upon your domain expertise. And so your ability to be able to tell the system how to complete a task really well allows it to actually really be skillful in how it executes that task. And then these kind of feedback loops, like it's really the more you can actually provide feedback on the outcome, like, oh, it wasn't quite the way I wanted it. Like, here's an example of what I wanted. Here's like, you can take the output and edit it to show it exactly how you want that output to be. It will get much, much better if you're much clearer on the outcome that you want. And even if you can show it examples of what you want. Now, when this is finished, I can flip back in to show you what it's come back for in the research, but it does take a little bit of time.
Yeah, and so going back to this research, so how long did it take you to really build this system?
So this system is based upon an app that I launched last year. And so I would say behind the system, the prompts took like 9 months of iteration. So I've been using them forever. So I just keep iterating on them. To build a system and to get it to work in Claude Code, not long at all, because one of the things that is a little bit easier for me is because I'm from an engineering background.
Yeah.
System building I don't know, it's just kind of not as hard. I don't find it as hard. It's kind of like logically makes sense in my head when I'm building these things. And then Claude Code is so quick at building a system. So let me give you a good example is there's a command you can run in Claude Code called /insights. You can just run /insights and it will show you exactly what you're doing in that folder. And it has a little recommendations place. And that recommendations will tell you like how you could be improving that project. You can actually just run that command, look at it and say, hey, I'm happy with all these recommendations, just implement it. and Claude Code will just like implement those recommendations and make that system better. The other thing is, over time, you can basically say to Claude Code, okay, based upon the system that we've built and based upon your capabilities and how you've improved, what should I change and what don't I need anymore? It really can just help you do it,
Yeah.
which is kind of pretty scary. So what value do I add? The system. I actually think Claude can probably do a great job in building a lot of the skills, building all of the scripts. It built all, like I didn't build any of the scripts. It built all of the scripts. What I can figure out is like the kind of domain expertise, like how you would bring this to life in a real content system that adds real value and creates great content.
Okay, question, because I think we're touching something really interesting. Is what you're saying is Claude helps you at each level of the system building, let's say. So creating the prompts and helping you with creating the output and correcting, fixing the output, etc., etc. So, but are you clear beforehand on what's the destination, or are you involving Claude as well into, having a clear mind on what's the destination?
Claude helps through the entire process. So like I'll first of all start with an idea of the system, and then I'll work with Claude, and then I always say to Claude, let's align. Let's align. That's a great thing to do before it starts to go off and work. Are we aligned? This is back now as well. So it does the ideation. And then I basically say, okay, well, I've got, in this example, I had a ton of source code from the app, and I give it the entire app source code. And I said, like, here's what I have, and how can we replicate this into a system? And it extrapolated all the prompts and started building skills. And then I will say then a lot of it is just like iteration. So the reason I added in the content queue is because I wanted to have like, the more I did research, the more it was hard to like figure out what ideas it had created. The reason I added in feedback loops is because it wasn't always right. It needed like guidance. It needed improvement. I'm rebuilding the YouTube part because YouTube is so differentiated from text. And so I'm going to have a very different way of actually pulling in YouTube. And so, yeah, I think it's involved in the entire process from start to finish, with me still, with it sometimes being the dominant partner and it's taking the lead and building this stuff. And then me sometimes being the dominant partner where I'm like taking the lead and telling it exactly what to do. Not too different from probably how you work with an engineer. Sometimes you have like, sometimes the engineer wants to do what it wants to do, and sometimes you're guiding the engineer and asking the engineer to do things. So,
okay, but the starting point is you having an idea of a project, and so basically the project is, okay, I want to build a content system, and you will help me build this content system. So, all right, let's work as partners. So you challenge me on my ideas, you ask me questions, blah 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 blah, and then we define a plan and the features and etc. etc. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. So you basically say, hey, I have this idea of a way I work, and so you could say to it, like, this is what I do. First of all, tell me which ways I can improve this. Like, how could this be better? And then based upon that, how can we create a system, or start off like, how can we create some skills? What are some skills that can actually do this work, automate what I do? And then I think I would start with skills, like the individual skills, to make sure that they work. And then you can actually collapse that into a system. And at all times you can tell Claude, okay, well, like, how would you improve this? What am I thinking about? And then I would run something and I would get the output and I would give it to Claude and say, this is what the output was. What ways do you think you could actually improve this? And so you can see the research skill here is actually added to the, I'll go up here. So this is the research skill. So like 12 points extracted across 4 categories. So it has the different categories. So this is what I'm saying. It is trained to look for certain things that I know work really well. And then it has the dominant themes in that research. So this one here is really good. Look, we're literally talking about this. The role is split in system builders versus content generators. Solo marketers run on operations that used to require teams. The agency execution has been compressed into 2 minutes. Then it has this audience pain points. So it maps to the audience pain points. And then it has these new, puts them into like the content queue. And then I can ask it to elaborate on any of these I really like. So like the marketer is a system builder, which is like really good. That's high. I can just say vibe coded as new growth hack. That was actually really good. Can you give me the details of this one? because it has all the details. It's just giving me the abbreviation to see which ones I like. Oh,
It's
I
like
did
the
something
hook.
silly there. Yeah.
He's giving you the hook, and then you're like, oh, all right.
Oh, okay. I've gone into a different mode here.
No, but I think we get the idea. It's perfect. I mean, it's and you know what's funny is I've seen. So I told you before I'm listener watcher. I don't know how to say of Marketing Against the Grain on YouTube, and every time you share these type of use cases, you're always impressed by the output of the AI. And even now, like you were like, oh my God, this is really good. And so every time I see you sharing these type of use cases, you're always impressed by some of the outputs the AI give you. And so yeah, it's really interesting to see that you can always be surprised by the quality of the output that AI can create.
Yeah. Sorry, it's has come back now. I don't know what I was doing there. But yeah, it's again, because it's trained to know exactly what to look for, and so it kind of surprises me because it's getting so much better.
Yeah.
Like I just want to show this. I want to just show this because I just want to show how good it is. This is the last thing I'll show because I want to show you one other quick thing that's super cool. I know we're probably up in time, so it's come back here. So when I ask for the details, it actually knows exactly. So it gives me a hook already. It gives me the core insight. It gives me the application. So like basically how you would tell someone to action this. And it gives me why this is valuable. Now, the thing I have that's really good is like I have this enrich skill. So if I say to enrich this talking point, what it will come back with is like modular blocks that would be really good to enrich this. So it comes back with kind of a story. It comes back with a case study. It comes back with a count. It has, this is really good, like the counter argument, why this is wrong, because then you can actually take it the opposite position, and it will come back with a visual hook. And so I can actually create imagery from in here, and will suggest an image to like integrate into that piece of content. So that one probably will take some time to run, but so it's a natural flow. You ask it to come back with these kind of talking points, and I say, oh, I really like that one. Give me the kind of details. It has it scored here. This is the reason it's given me like what's the application is because this is educational. It even tells me the emotion, right? So like in that way, how do you derive emotion from content? It tells me this one here is going to drive a lot of curiosity. So I would make sure that it drives curiosity in the hook, right? Because that's how I'm going to get people to click. And then I can say, okay, I can actually ask it to create, turn that talking point into content. But I've asked it to enrich. And so the other thing I'll just end on is the system is very much built to how I work. And that is the big difference with AI. It's not built for, this is like mapped to how I like to work. Now, if I was building this into a system and I was going to give it away, I would allow people to be able to tailor it to their needs. And I have ways to do that because I'm going to add a onboarding agent that will actually change the system based upon the onboarding. But AI is like very personal. It's like very personalized and nuanced to how you want to work.
Yeah, but I feel that it's you don't come from you come from a software engineer background, which is directly linked to the product, but it's the type of processes you go through, etc. It's like building an onboarding process for a product and having like the different steps and what's the haha moment and what's blah, 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 blah. So it's really like the product mindset, a product.
Yeah. Well, I work in growth the majority of my career as well. So a lot of it, most of my career has been building, growth, all these kind of different systems. Right. I think that, but I honestly think that any, you do not need to be technical. You really don't.
Yeah.
If you just know, so here it's coming back with the different enrichments. So it has a story that I could add in, which is it's pretty good actually.
Yeah.
So it has a case study, which was the Anthropic one. It has an authority, a quote here, has a counter arguments, preempts at the AI stop at scale, has a pretty good visual hook. So like, honestly, this is And so how do I use this? I never copy and paste content. I create ideas that are enriched with modular blocks, and then I rewrite from that. But how you want to do, what other people would do with it is up to, like, they would have different ways of using it, but that's how I work.
Great. All right, Kieran, thank you very much for sharing all this. For the people who want to follow you, learn from you, where do we send them?
Yeah, so everyone wants a system. I actually did a LinkedIn post where I kind of just talked high level about it, and I basically said, I think this is really funny what's happening on LinkedIn. I actually literally said in the LinkedIn,
I saw
the joke that I said, like, AI content system, I'm joking, you can only get it on my Substack. I have now had 40 DMs on LinkedIn with just AI content system. So stop DMing me AI content system. You can get on my Substack. If you want all this stuff, it's Substack. That's where I put, because it just gives me a longer form way to actually bring this to life. And so kieranflanagan.io is my Substack, and you can go there, and that's where I'm releasing all these things, so you can actually go and replicate them.
Okay, so LinkedIn for your jokes, and then
I give like individual skills away, but trying to give away an entire content system is just
I agree.
too much.
I agree.
Yeah.
Then Substack,
Substack
for people who wants to really go deep.
And then Marketing It Against the Grain is our YouTube channel that we do AIs with my really good friend Kip Bodnar, and you'll get a lot of that on Marketing Against the Grain as well, where you can see it visually and see us building it.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Kieran, and talk to you soon.
Cool. Cheers. Thank you.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just